Hi there. Welcome to Have It All. I am your host and the creator, Anna K. Morris, and I'm thrilled that you're here because if you are here, it means that you're interested in having it all, or maybe you're curious about what I and my guests have to say about having it all. Can we? Do we know what it is that we want? And once we get it, are we wise enough to know that we have it? And are we worthy enough to hold on to it? That's what we'll be exploring on the podcast. I'm so happy you're here, and let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Have It All podcast. I am so excited to have one of my favorite people that I haven't spoken to in way too long, Stephanie Avenito, on the show today. And it's super timely because we were together quite a bit last holiday season. And then Stephanie is a journaling and notebooking, which is different than journaling, I've learned from you, and reading specialist in the university setting. And then you do a ton of things. I'm like, and then now you're teaching yoga and reading for mindfulness, which there are some statistics as a yoga teacher that always shock me around reading and the benefits. And you were on my summit. I forget if it was the spring or the summer one.
It was the fun summit.
It was the fun summit. Yeah. Cause you were doing a summer reading.
Yes.
List. So thank you so much for being here. I know your time is valuable and precious and busy. You were just on Zoom all day and you're still here with me.
This is a much more pleasant Zoom than I've been on in the morning time. So I'm excited. I always love talking to you, and it does feel like it's been far too long.
I know. We have to change that so we can make that happen, but we won't make everybody listen to our schedule. Well, can you go ahead and just start with the statistic that that always boggles my mind about the benefits of reading as compared to yoga?
I love this statistic, and I love just dropping this statistic strategically
like
to have people just, stop in their tracks and think for a minute. And the kind of the mic drop statistic is this: 30 minutes of reading any book that you would like to read, 30 minutes of reading has the same impact on our parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and de-stress, digest system, as 30 minutes of yoga. That is some of the newer research that has come out. Now, it does not have the muscle benefits or some of the other benefits that yoga brings, but as a signal to our nervous system to decompress, 30 minutes of reading. And it is old-fashioned reading, so to speak, because it's your eyes moving left to right across the page again and again and again and again. That puts us into that more meditative state that equals what yoga brings. And so there's just so many possibilities in opening the door to the wellness to also include things like reading and writing and yoga and the magic that happens when you pair them together, quite frankly.
I love that. And it's not, I just want to be clear, it's not watching Netflix.
It's not watching Netflix. It's not media of any kind other than a printed text. Now, that doesn't mean you can't read that on your Kindle or read that text on your phone. The discrepancy comes where some people ask, is an audiobook the same? And here's the thing with audiobooks. When we are listening to audiobooks, typically as a majority, we are multitasking. We're walking the dog, we're doing the dishes, we're doing the laundry. We are not as focused on the page when we are listening, and our eyes are not moving in that left to right meditative sequence. So as long as you are physically reading with your eyeballs, and that is either a printed book or a digital book, you will get that benefit to your nervous system if you do that for 30 minutes. Now, full disclaimer though, it only takes 6 minutes to start to reap those benefits. The magic comes when you get to 30 and you really harness the power of reading as it equals that yoga benefit. but it only takes 6 minutes of continuous reading to start to get the physical, the cognitive, the emotional benefits
Mhm.
that a lot of people might not associate with picking up a book, right? A lot of people think reading is my hobby. It's what I
Yeah.
do when my work is done. It's what I
Yeah.
do at the end of the day. It's indulgent. It's not. It's essential to our health and well-being. That's the message that I am singing from the rooftops.
It is essential to our health and well-being.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah.
Well, because this is getting right into, I know that you've been on university work calls all morning, and I've been in copywriting land for a holiday course that you and I, when we didn't know each other, that's really where we got to know each other last year. That I've kind of made a little bit more compact than a 6-week course that you did last year, and so I've been looking at that course all morning, and we all can find 6 minutes. And I would assert that we can find 30 minutes,
Yes,
right?
I agree.
And thinking about how we choose to spend our precious time,
Mhm.
um, and what we're looking to feel, right? Like this episode is going out the Thursday before Thanksgiving, right?
Mhm.
It's the Thursday before Thanksgiving. We're recording it like right before. So thank you for making this work in your schedule. Um, and it'll drop tomorrow. And, when I look at how frizzle frazzled people are this time of year, how timely to be talking about reading as
Yeah.
this thing that we think of as indulgent when it's actually self care. It's actually like going to the gym or to a yoga class. Now, minus the muscle benefits, unless you're lifting weights. No, that's multitasking. No, I guess you couldn't do that. I guess you could have weights
Right.
on. I don't know. um, but I'm curious as to how reading has impacts you specifically around this time of year.
So there's a couple of, do you mean for me personally? Or do you
Yeah.
mean, yeah. So for me, reading reading has saved my life more than once. If I
Mm.
just put that big blanket statement out there. When I was a kid, I was a voracious reader and writer. It was my hobby. It was what I did for fun. But when I was a teenager, I became really ill. Some mysterious thing, hospital to hospital, doctor to doctor, clinic to clinic. Couldn't quite figure it out. And it left me bedridden for a couple of years. And so the only thing I
I
could do.
I just let's just land that. I'm getting like super emotional. I don't know if I'm using video on this or not, but like I'm crying. But I also know backstory, right?
Mhm.
Um, okay, so what ages were you bedridden?
From 13 to almost 16.
Okay, I
Pretty
just want
formative teenage years,
everybody to
right?
hear that, right? Like the most formative on like
Yeah,
when you're outside and with your friends and running around and playing and like you're on the cusp of like real freedom with the car and all of
yeah,
those things.
yeah,
And so speak to readings. I mean, I can see where you're going with this, that like reading saved your life.
yeah. It saved my life for a couple of reasons. The first is that I could not physically do anything else.
Mm,
So it occupied my mind. It gave me
yeah.
something to do. It gave me something to feel good at a time where I really couldn't do anything else.
Mhm.
But it also gave me an escape. I got to get out of the bed by hopping
Mhm.
into the pages of whatever book I was reading. I got to
Mhm.
go to different places. I got to
Mhm.
do things that regular kids did in my mind as I was reading that book, which is what I desperately needed to
Yeah.
do at that time. I also figured out what real teenagers do when eventually they get better, right? I had something to look forward to
Yeah.
when I was done, but it was actually a book. It was a book that I read that led me to a diagnosis and a protocol and eventually wellness. So it literally was the book that kind of saved my mental health during that time, but then that
Mhm.
actually got me out of that particular period of my life.
And now look at the life it's created.
Right.
I mean, this is
Right.
become your life, right? Like
Yes.
you are a literature coach. Tell me exactly in your language.
So in my university position, I'm a literacy teacher educator.
Mhm,
I spent 20 years teaching teachers and kids, but teaching teachers how to teach kids how to
mhm,
read.
mhm,
And then outside of that, my entire life revolves around why we teach kids how
mhm,
to read, that power that comes with reading.
mhm.
Um, there's there's just so much research behind how it is good for us in terms of that physical health, that mental health, that cognitive health. Um, but it's more than that. It's a tool, right? You meet new friends, you go new places, your ideas of the world are challenged and made bigger in ways that can't happen if you just stay in your own lane, so to speak. So
Mhm,
reading gives
mhm.
us such an opportunity to grow without ever leaving where we are. You know,
Yeah.
moving into my 40s, COVID comes, and unfortunately, that same thing that sidetracked me as a teenager decided to just come rearing
Oh,
back
so it's stress related?
in another form. It's a little bit of everything. It was a
Yeah.
little bit of health, a little bit of stress, a little bit of COVID.
Yeah.
And I found myself right back to being that 13-year-old kid going,
Mhm.
what do I do? I can't live life the way I used to. But now I have a husband and now I have kids and now I have a job and
And 5 dogs you just told me.
I and I have 5 dogs.
Yeah.
You know, what do I do? And so at that point, I said, you know, what worked before? What got me out of that before? And what made me feel better? And it's books and reading, of course. And so I lean back into that in a way that I hadn't done up until that point. I read more, I researched more, but I wanted to know why. You know, I have a PhD, I can do research. I wanted to know why reading was so good for my health, why I was in this situation again. And of course, it was a book that led to another book, that led to another book, that led me to yoga, that led me to other wellness modalities, which now has me as a yoga teacher and blending all of these things together. So I really feel like if I looked back on my life, I could identify key books that were that wonderful domino that just sent things in a wonderful new direction. And so it worked when I was a kid. It's working now. It has worked for almost every area of my life, whether it's challenges that I'm going through or my family's going through. Books are just there in ways that humans aren't, if I can say that. They
Yeah.
are patient and they're non-evaluative and they give you whatever you
Mhm.
need in the moment. And now I really sound like a book nerd, but I think they could probably figure
No,
that out since.
well, I mean, I don't know where the word term nerd comes from, but we certainly use it disparagingly when I think that we don't, I mean, you're a
Right.
book expert,
Yeah.
and I know that you teach people on how to like choose the right book for you. I think that, you know,
Yes.
we did that in the summer fun summit that you were on. And I love that you really speak to like their non-evaluative, which is a much nicer way of saying like they're not going to judge you,
Yes.
right? There's
Yes.
not feedback here.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're patient,
Hmm.
and they're
Hmm.
patient when we are not.
Yeah.
And they're there for us always. You don't have to get on a calendar or schedule, right? And
Right.
and books provide different things. The same book provides different things at different times. And
Absolutely.
I mean, I read some books over again and I'm like, oh wow, I remember the first time and it was like this and it's not like that at all because I am different. So
Yes.
context is
That's the key.
always different.
Yeah. That is the key. So there are really three different layers of benefits that come when you have a consistent reading practice. The first is what
Mhm.
happens to
I
your
just stop
body.
you right there, just real quick. Don't
Yeah.
forget those 3 points. I
Oh,
didn't
I
know.
won't.
But you said a consecutive reading, what was it, habit?
Yes.
I don't think of reading that way.
Yeah.
I think of it as like this. luxury kind of thing that when I've gotten all my things to do, I might,
Yeah.
but then sometimes it feels like a little bit too much work and I'll opt for like the easy whatever Netflix. And I did that last night. I subconsciously probably thought of you. And I turned it off because I was like, I actually feel like crap watching this.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? I will just go to sleep instead at 8:45. And I sure did.
Yep.
Great. But yeah, okay. So go back to the three things. I think that's interesting to think of reading as a practice.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And it's a practice because in order to really get the benefits that I'm about to share with you, you
Yeah.
have to be consistent. You
Mm.
have to do them on a regular basis, even if it's only 6 minutes of reading or 15 to 20 minutes of journaling a couple of times a month. It's not much to set that wheel in motion, but it does have to be set. So
Okay.
that first layer of benefits that come is probably what's appealing right now around this holiday season is that our physical body actually responds. After 6 minutes of reading, ideally 30, right, to really get that benefit that we talked about at the top of the episode, changes happen in our physical body. Our heart rate slows down, our breathing slows down, our muscles relax, right? If we are in that more relaxed state, then our nervous system starts to calm, which
Mm-hmm.
means less cortisol, which means
Mm-hmm. I
less
mean,
inflammation.
you're selling it to every woman listening. We are,
Yes,
Thanksgiving is next Thursday. Like everyone's like, oh my
read a
gosh,
book.
trashy
Don't.
book is like good for me.
Yes. Yes, and that's it. People don't really expect
Yeah.
or know,
I need
that
to hear.
physical
I'm like,
cellular
I've
response.
got like 10 books on my bedside and then I'm just going for the Netflix instead. And I'm like, oh, I'm not doing that tonight or the
Yes.
rest of the holidays
Yes.
because I'm like, I want all those things slow breathing, muscles relaxed, nervous system calmed, cortisol drip off.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So that's,
if we do that regularly, and especially if you do it at night, then you can dip yourself into sleep a little bit
yeah,
easier, which
yeah.
then has its own restorative benefits. So
Okay.
just engaging in reading, no matter what you are reading, has that first layer of benefits.
Okay.
But
Sold.
if you are strategic
Mm-hmm.
and choosing the books that are right for you, that's when the second layer of benefits come
Okay.
in. And I like to tell people to, create a book apothecary for yourself because I just love the idea of an apothecary with little drawers and little things and little potions. And that's what books are. They're balms. They can
Mm-hmm.
soothe us. And so if you look at who do you want to be in this particular season? How do you want to feel? I learned that from you, Anna. And what
Mm-hmm.
do you want to do? The books that you choose can help you grow into those things. And there's neuroscience behind this. So most of us have heard this wonderful quote, Jim Rohn, you are the average of the five people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
Right. And I like to say you are also the average of the last five books that you've read.
Mm.
And the reason is because of this amazing thing called your subconscious and mirror neurons, right?
Mm.
So, mirror neurons are the neurons in our brains that fire when we witness something happen to someone else. So we all probably know the feeling. I know you do, especially Anna, is that when you see something really wonderful and happy going on, you feel wonderful and happy. If
Mm.
you see something emotional,
Mm.
you might get emotional. If you see something negative, you can often feel that in your
Yeah.
chest or in your body for someone else. And it's because your brain is witnessing that. And
Mm-hmm.
the same neurons that are firing in that other person's brain are firing in yours. Not at the same intensity, not at the same depth, but they're there. And our
Yeah.
subconscious does not know the difference between reality and a really wonderfully imagined visualization. It
Yeah.
doesn't know the difference. So, what we are firing in our brain on a daily basis from what we interact with matters. And the research shows that what we read has the potential to fire those mirror neurons too.
Oh, this is making so much sense,
Right?
because I have to tell you, I am in a book club and I get really weird about, like, they'll say, it was a book last month. I can't remember the name of the book. Local Woman Missing. I do remember the name of the book. It was Local Woman Missing, sitting on my bedside. The start of it is a child locked away and told from her perspective. And she's in the dark and she's waiting for food. And there's some other kid and they're marking how many days they've been in there. And I can't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to read books like that, but I mean, I've always been empathic, but having kids put it in a whole new hormonal level. Like, I can't do it. I can't watch Handmaid's Tale. I can't watch it. I read the book before I had kids, and then I tried to watch it after having kids. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Because it's too upsetting, because I'm right there. So this makes a lot of sense. I'm like, it's the same thing as, if you pluck a guitar, the C string, in a room with another guitar, the C string reverbs on that other guitar. Same thing that you're talking about, which explains why I have a whole bunch of stupid books on my bedside that I can't get through. And I'm over here beating myself up about it.
Yeah.
When you just explained why. Like, no. Yeah. And I listen to hard things as a coach all day long.
Yeah.
And so the last thing I want to do is read that shit at night.
Exactly. Exactly. And it also is a really good reason, because there's a lot of us, and I don't know if you're one of them, Anna, who have a hard time abandoning a book.
Yeah, I mean, it's still sitting there. They're all right there. And
right.
Then I
you feel guilty.
And they need to go. And they're just in the closet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a really good reason why. Like, a lot of people will say, oh, we just don't have enough time to read books that we don't love. And that is true.
Yeah.
But in my point of view, we can't afford what reading a book that we don't feel good about happens to our brain, right? Because if we're the average of the 5 things we surround ourselves with, we have to be selective. And that means books. And I always say, pay it forward. That book is waiting patiently for the next reader. It's not you right now. Maybe it's later. But a lot of us really think of that effect in terms of the negative pieces. Like you were saying, that book just didn't make you feel good, or that movie didn't make you feel good. But what I like to teach people is how to harness the power of feeling good from the books we read, right? If you want to grow an identity as a runner, memoirs of people who have run, read fiction books of characters who are getting ready for that marathon, because those same mirror neurons that are firing right in that book, in that character's brain, you are starting to fire them in your own. And so you can really be strategic.
That's a whole group of books.
Yeah, your ideas around anchor feelings have changed my life since last year at the holidays. And this is exactly, we can cultivate that anchor feeling through books. Our own life may not be letting us have that anchor feeling easily, but we can find it in a book and give it to ourselves that way.
I love that. I'm going to come back to anchor feelings, but I want to hear the third layer.
The third one is I would say it's one of the most fun, but it's when you take the lessons you're learning in the book, you take the nudges you're hearing, you take the whispers floating around in your
favorite
brain,
words. Yes.
Right. So if you're reading books that are helping you be the person you want to be and feel how you want to feel and do what you want to do, the next layer of benefits come when you actually take inspired action from engaging in that. And that action can be little, like texting a long lost friend that the book reminded you of who might like it. It could be baking the lemon meringue pie from Rachel Linden's book, like I did, and then sharing it with your family. It could be taking your first in-studio yoga class, which led you to a teacher training, which happened to me. So it's taking that action on whatever the book is bringing up for you. It's just doing it and then watching what happens to your actual life, because you let yourself find that time to read. See, now I'm getting really fired up.
Oh my God, I love it so much when you do this. It makes me so happy. I'm like, yes, let's end this podcast and go read.
Let's just go read.
Like, everyone go, like no audiobooks. We're going to do this with our eyes, back and forth, back and forth.
That's right.
I love that. And I do, and we are actually going to wrap up because we're not going to do a long podcast because it's the holidays. Um, but would you take us back to the anchor feeling that I taught you? I would love to hear more about that and have you explain it because, you know, we have this podcast today. It's the same day that I'm dropping this holiday course that I forgot that I made last year.
Mhm.
You know, funny how things happen when you're so busy. Um, and a tech snafu had me find it. So I'm grateful to the universe to that, you know, Kajabi didn't save my work when I was so pissed off at it. And if you would share, because that's really where we got to know each other, and you were going through a really hard time.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that the holidays, and the holidays are really great and they're really terrible,
Yeah.
right? And they can go either way pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think that there's this expectation that has always felt like, has made me feel a lot of pressure and like it needs to be a certain way. And if it's not like a Hallmark movie, there's something bad and wrong and off.
Yeah.
And so I really created the course last year to solve my own overwhelm and stress, but also like some things that I missed that I knew weren't going to happen again in my family. And how could I create that? And the anchor feeling was one of the big teachings. I'll let you share about that.
The anchor feeling changed my holiday. The anchor feeling saved my holiday. The anchor feeling changed my life. I have not looked at anchor feelings. I have not looked at my situations that I deal with in the same way ever since you introduced this idea to me. And so to give listeners a little bit of context, I met you a little before Thanksgiving, right? So it is
Is that when we met?
almost a year
Oh wow.
anniversary. Yes.
Yes.
And I was going through a really difficult time. My daughter was deep in the recovery process for an eating disorder, and life was very, very hard. We were in and out of treatment centers, in and out of therapists, and we unfortunately ended up in the hospital because of her physical condition in a refeeding program. And the holidays were just around the corner. And I can imagine that people listening have already figured out that you really can't have a holiday without two things: food being the first,
Yeah.
which is really difficult when you are supporting someone with an eating disorder,
Yeah.
and family, which
Yeah.
doesn't always know how to say the right thing or to convey what they are feeling in a way that lands with the person receiving it. And I was petrified. I was petrified of how I was going to have a holiday that felt good, that felt like it used to when life wasn't what it
Yeah.
was. And that first call with you, you introduced this idea of anchor feelings, and you had us kind of bathe ourselves in really wonderful memories of our holidays from the past and what we wanted to hold on to. And I still remember that whole body feling of thinking of my grandparents and my
I remember your
traditions.
story like it was,
Yes.
yeah. Hmm.
I can still feel it. And what I love is that I can call up that feeling. And so I chose an anchor feeling around that love and those memories and that peace and that joy. It was kind of a combination of feelings. And you were very clear in that session that your circumstances don't determine how you feel inside. You determine how you feel inside. And I remember sitting there on that call going, wait, what?
I know.
Wait, what? What did she just say?
Yeah.
And it just brought me so much power and
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
And okay, I've got this. And I made plans. We made plans to have, safe dinners. And by safe, I just mean things that wouldn't trigger my daughter. We made plans with family members of, what you might say and what you might not say. And I had a plan. I had a plan. And
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving morning, that plan went out the window in a way I did not expect. And I will save listeners from the details, but let's just say it was a dumpster fire.
Because it is. It
To
always
put it
is.
nicely, yes. And I remember standing in the kitchen, I was in tears and life was falling apart around me. And I heard you saying, it's not the circumstances that determine the feeling. And I just regrouped myself and I said, okay, I went by myself for a few minutes. I did exactly what you led me through, which is let's go back to those really wonderful memories. Let's flood my body with that. What could I do right now
Mhm.
to keep that present? And it ended up being a really wonderful day in a completely unexpected
Yeah.
way that in the past I may have called a failure, but I did not because I was focused on the right things. And now I'm going to cry because I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that if it weren't for you. And I don't really like social media a whole lot, but my gosh, that's the only way I found out about you. So I'm so grateful for it. And even though this year is better in so many ways, that is still what is driving how I look at the holidays this year. That anchor feeling. It changed everything. It changed
Mhm.
everything. I'm so grateful for you and the work that you did. And I hope people join you because I don't know what that could have led to last year if I didn't change the way I responded.
Yeah, I mean, because we forget how much power we have,
Hmm.
and the holidays are like a circumstantial runaway train
Yes.
that we don't know that we're actually driving.
Yes.
And what I have started doing in anticipation of this, because in my anchor feeling, and firstly, thank you so much for sharing all of that so vulnerably and so honestly. You know, the holidays are not always a time of peace and joy and, you know, all of that. And sometimes they are. And there's a flip side to that too. Like, can we let it feel that good? And
Right.
I would say, like, can we keep those good feelings even into January? Because January is always the one that creeps up on me. So maybe, who knows, maybe I'm doing a January class next year. I don't know. But um, what I have started doing, because I've had a similar situation in my family like you described, and there isn't like the that right now, but it's the stress and the overwhelm and the performance of like all the things, and we're just coming off of Jack's birthday and all the things, and I have started going for long walks without my phone,
Yeah.
and I am talking to God for the entire 45 minutes, and we are having a conversation. And you can think I'm crazy or not, but like for me, I know that what I need now more than any other time is a strong sense of faith,
Yeah.
right? And whatever that looks like. I'm
Yeah.
talking to the trees and the birds and all of that because it helps me to remember that that's what matters, that being present, not all the gifts and the to do list and the calendar of events. Because
Yes.
my anchor feeling is white space. I would normally be like dressed for the day because I have an afternoon of interviews. I'm in loungy pajama clothes because I was like, oh, but my anchor feeling is like cozy and unscheduled.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how do I feel that when I do also have like time commitments,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And I never would have realized how much control I had over that without that mic drop that you gave us.
I'm so happy to hear that because, you know, I think that it's just always a nice reminder that you made a difference. And I know that what you're teaching people and what they've heard on this podcast, I mean, the 6 minutes of reading makes a difference, and 30 minutes makes, you know, this huge impact on. We're hearing so much right now about calming your nervous system. And I will sing it from the mountaintops. We can only grow as much as our nervous system will allow.
Yeah.
So, how wise to put something that we want to achieve, because everybody's very goal oriented, right? Of like, if you want to be a professional boxer or a multimillionaire or an entrepreneur or like whatever it is, read those books,
Yeah.
calm your nervous system, learn how to do those things. It's like slam dunk after slam dunk after slam dunk.
Yeah. Yeah. And then those little steps you take afterwards, those add up.
Yeah.
They add up, they feel good, and then it just multiplies from
I
there.
love it. And then people can find how to what is your I can't remember. I know that we talked about it right before getting on of like how to create the perfect book for you.
The book
Like,
Apothecary. Yes. So if you go to my website, which is alitlife.com, there's
mhm.
all sorts of resources there from my
God,
podcast,
your website's amazing. One of my
book
favorites. It's
list.
literally
Thank
book.
you. Thank
So
you for that. But I love inviting people to join me in what I call my 365
I've got one.
days
It's so
of
good.
snail mail, of book postcard snail mail. And so it is my hope to personally recommend books to as many people as I can to get them into this reading and writing kind of space. And so it's free. It's a Google form. It's your name. It's your physical address, a little bit about you and your reading life. And then I mentally go through the thousands of books that I've read and I think which one would be
It's amazing.
perfect.
Yeah.
And I handwrite it on these book postcards that I have had designed to look like library cards.
Good.
And it's
I
just
have mine on my
happy
fridge
mail.
here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Every single person on this podcast needs to go over to your website because we're going to be getting tons of Christmas cards and all of that. And that's well and good, except you're not going to get shit but bills in January.
that's right. That's right.
So I'm like, sign up for Stephanie's. I remember when I got it in the mail and I was like, what is this? I didn't even remember.
Yeah.
And you had recommended like a cookbook set in New York and so good. And I haven't read it. And I'm like, now this is the time because I don't know that I even told you this, but like I collect and love cookbooks.
No, I did not
I
know that.
don't cook from them. I like the stories and the pictures and
Yeah.
like it's all of that because one of my like anchor feelings is in the kitchen with my mom. Obviously, we have a truffle company. Like,
Yeah.
and so and we barely knew each other when you recommended that book. You have such a talent and gift for that. I hope everybody will go and get a postcard from you. She's not going to go to your house, so don't be weird
No.
about like giving you the address. She's like a literacy professor. And then I just want to leave everybody with like go read a book tonight and one that makes you feel good. I'm giving myself permission.
That's right.
Get rid of all these books that make me feel like sad, honestly, and scared sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
they need to go.
Yes. 6 minutes of whatever book makes you feel good, makes you feel happy with no regard of what anybody says that book should do for you. This is your permission slip. I love that you just said that. It's not an indulgence.
Yeah.
It's not a hobby.
It's
It's not
necessary.
selfish. It is absolutely essential, especially as you mentioned in this stressful,
Yeah.
yet wonderful season that we're in.
Your literacy coach and your life coach has just told you, if you are listening,
right.
it's very bossy.
That's right.
This is your assignment is to go and do that. And then
Yeah.
also I restructured the class that I did last year because I tend to overdo things. And I made the class that you took that was 5 or 6 weeks, I made it into a 75-minute workshop. So you can come and join. It's $47 and everybody that joins gets to bring a friend for free. So
wow, Anna. Oh my
yeah,
gosh, how generous.
wouldn't that be great if you could like have your daughter do it with you, have your spouse, have your mom, have your friend who's always stressed out and overdoing it at the holidays, and like bring that person, give that gift to them too. So that'll be available today as well. So you can find that on annakmoris.com/holiday course. And thank you so much for listening. And thank you so much for being here, Stephanie. You're the best.
Thank you. I had a great time. We have to do this more often, Anna.
We definitely will. We definitely will. Thank you so much for listening to Have It All. And I will see you guys next week. For a happy early Thanksgiving. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. It is an honor and a privilege to have this conversation with you as we expand in the world. What is it that we want? Do we believe that we can have it all? I hope this episode gave you some insights and some things to think about, and most importantly, some actions to go and take in your own life. If one of those actions is reaching out to me, I'm so thrilled and honored. You can always find me on my website, annakmorris.com, and you can always send me an email, hello@annakmorris.com. DM, texting, if you have my number, any of that is great too, and I would love to be in touch with you and help you have it all. I love you, and thank you so much for being here.